Ngā mihi nui and welcome to Tower Sector Report. In this edition, we investigate a fascinating agribusiness innovation. As journalists, we don't endorse a single commercial product, but the sophistication of AgHub and its potential for widespread use on our farms does merit a closer look. Tower Sector Report correspondent Drew Chappell visits a Manawatu farm to witness AgHub in action. It's a computer-driven system which monitors virtually everything that happens on a farm minute by minute. It tracks pasture growth and effluent spreading, predicts the weather and runs a GPS system for irrigators. And the system coordinates the flood of different data to come up with a coordinated scheme of action for the farmer. It's all about planning. There's a lot to AgHub, and its inventor, Colin McFadzean, will explain it all to us shortly. The farmer-owned Balance Fertiliser Co-op is a major partner in the AgHub venture, and Graham Smith will explain why his company has become so closely involved in what one promoter of the product says will be to farm management tools what Facebook is to social media. Well, will that claim stand the test of time? Meantime, let's hear from the man who invented the AgHub system, Colin McFadzean. Well, Colin, welcome to Tower Sector Report here on Country 99 TV. Now, to begin with, just tell me, how did AgHub come into being? I mean, did a little light bulb go off in your head at 2 in the morning, or was it a fairly gradual process?
It was really, what happened was 8 or 9 years ago, we recognised that PC computing or PC applications on a computer couldn't integrate and couldn't talk to each other. And we were watching what the banks were doing, because they're always a good model, and recognised that as your online accounting, online account management is through the portal, through the internet, that there would be an opportunity to do that, to merge data.
So it was a fairly gradual process. You didn't wake up one morning and suddenly there was AgHub.
It's a good question. I can't really recall how it came about.
Fair enough.
It was more gradual because of the availability of broadband.
Yeah. Now, you describe the system as an open platform. What do you mean by that?
Basically, companies are faced with two ways of doing business on the internet or on a portal.
Yeah.
One is that they can develop their own, which is quite expensive, and then basically have it, in some cases, closed, so it doesn't permit other companies to come in.
Right.
Our model was very similar to a platform like Sky TV is, where we could actually turn around and create the framework and the login and then offer a service for other companies to put their products and services on there.
Pretty much like this very channel appears on Sky TV.
Exactly the same way.
Many and many more. So was the development of AgHub a relatively fast process after you had your first ideas?
We went down the wrong path for a little while, spent a bit of money on it.
Did you?
Yeah, and as we went through the process, we had to start it. We started the AgHub and then realised that the broadband wasn't as good as what it was sort of made out to be.
Right.
And therefore we sort of halted it. And then when we came back around again, we found that technology had moved on significantly, so we effectively found that the application we had wasn't suitable. We had to start again.
And I guess this ultra-fast broadband rollout is going to be a pretty significant for you.
Yeah, it will be. Most of our customers that we're currently selling the product to are more in that high-tech space anyway, so most of them tend to have satellite broadband through someone like Bay City or Farmside, and so subsequently most of them have access, they just do it through the satellites.
What sort of people did you hire to get this business underway? Computer geeks, people with agricultural backgrounds, a bit of both?
We actually went out and recruited a gentleman called Clive Nothling, and Clive was within Firth Industry. He was the Chief Information Officer, so we recognised that our current skill set wasn't correct for this. So we also recognised that fielding, whilst might have some attributes, isn't really the commercial centre in this business. So we actually recruited and set up in Auckland to do that.
Do you find, by the way, that farmers generally are fairly receptive to this whole idea of farming through cyberspace in a way?
I think it's like any business, they have it has an entry point that varies by individual farmer.
Exactly. Yeah.
We do a lot of applications that, for example, we unlock the value of effluent and we do the compliance as an outcome. Now that has a certain following within our customer base, but then someone's interested in irrigation they want moisture monitoring, and someone else will be interested in compliance. So their entry points vary.
Yeah.
And the more you have on the platform, the more attractive it is.
Indeed. Now, you talk about data aggregation, which is a bit of a mouthful, helping farmers farm more effectively. Can you explain what you mean by that? Are you linking various streams of data up to draw one conclusion or several conclusions?
That's definitely our second level development. That's really where you can take, for example, match animal weights and put it with available grass.
Right.
And then be able to forecast out what the average daily or the available body weight will be at a certain given time. So it provides you that opportunity to do that you don't do in PC-based.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You talk about AgHub becoming or certainly your promoters to becoming the trade me in a way for agricultural portals. So you're talking about the provision of really vast quantities of data, aren't you?
Yeah, the data, storage of data is not the issue. It's really the Trade Me, I guess, was successful because they were first into the marketplace. And we were in we were in a lot earlier than a lot of other people have got into it. And subsequently, I think it'll be the fact that we'll be established in a lot of those companies that don't wish to incur the cost like True Test and Gallagher's to build their own portals, which are very expensive and can see the value in it. The question will be whether they have an appetite to go around again with someone else.
Yeah, indeed. One of your selling points really is around that whole area, the leverage and the power that you say AgHub offers, because it can combine all these previously disparate data, put them together and come up with a conclusion and a set of recommendations for a farmer. Perhaps you could just give me an example of how that data can be brought together to come up with sort of recommended courses of action on a farm.
We actually, John, we don't do the recommendation. What we do with AgHub is we provide the laptop.
Right.
We actually make the data available for other parties, but someone needs to apply the necktop. And what we do then is, like, farm consultants can take that data and other industry consultants, and because of the login way that AgHub works, is the farmer who owns the data can invite anyone they wish to access that data. So somebody might want to do a grazing plan or some other piece of information for a farmer, but they need the data then there to be able to make a recommendation.
Okay, so it's pretty unfiltered in a way, and it's up to an expert in that particular area, say, as you say, a grazing plan.
Yeah.
No, I think we touched on this briefly earlier, but it is a notoriously conservative market, the market for selling things to farmers. You're going to have to do some pretty serious kind of marketing here, aren't you?
Yeah, we will do, and we are doing it. It's, as I said, it's what the entry point is. So we're obviously aware that effluent placement for dairy farmers is a major issue, and so are the fines. So by approaching it on the basis of unlocking the value of the effluent, where we go out and we work out effluent zones and where to apply it, then we're able to soil test it and get that information. We very much are focused on unlocking the value, or adding value to the information. The big thing that we do is, unlike some of the other portals, is we deal with the compliance as an outcome. We don't deal with it as the primary driver. So there's, as I said before, there's a lot of entry points for different farmers for different bits of information.
Exactly. Finally, and very briefly, what's it going to cost a farmer to buy your system?
Go back to the Sky Platform model. If you just wanted to watch Country 99 TV, it's a price. If you wanted the whole bundled offer, it's a price. It starts at $300, and for a corporate dairy farmer, it's around about $3,000 per year if you take absolutely everything that's on there.
Right. Thanks for that. Well, very interesting developments. Thanks very much for your time today, Colin.
Thank you, John.
Colin McFadzean, the man who came up with AgHub. I should point out that Colin claims there's no competition for AgHub that's up and flying yet, but there are plenty of businesses developing systems which could go out to farmers on his company's platform. As he says, it's a bit like Sky TV. Well, we'll be back in a moment to join Tower Sector Report correspondent Drew Chappell as he visits a Manawatu farm to see the AgHub system going through its paces.
As the sun rises on another cold autumn morning in the Manawatu, it lights up a familiar scene. Right around the country, cows are lining up for milking, but here in Feilding, on this particular farm, you have to look behind the scenes to spot the crucial difference. Stephen Barr owns and runs this 420 hectare property with his wife Mary, assisted by 6 full-time staff. They run 800 odd dairy cattle, supplying New Zealand's second largest milk processor, Open Country Dairy. That's not the unusual part. Every aspect of the Barr's property is monitored and measured by state-of-the-art systems put in place by Kiwi tech company AgHub. From milk yield to effluent levels, rainfall to soil moisture, every conceivable measurement useful for farm life is fed directly and instantly onto the Barr's AgHub profile.
The sort of thing that you used to be able to do just with 100 acres or driving down the race and seeing where it is. On bigger farms you just need systems to be able to know all those things without necessarily being everywhere all the time. I usually check everything at home before I leave in the morning, and anywhere you've got an internet connection you can be.
Stephen and his team have been among the first in the country to trial the new system, which its creators say will soon become as essential as fences and quad bikes in the day-to-day running of a farm. The user-friendly nature of the technology means not only is all the information Stephen needs available when he wants it, it's an easy-to-read form too. That's important when you're on the move all day and you don't have a degree in computing.
Monitoring that data, is that a difficult process?
It's all in graphical forms or on maps. So the likes of the effluent information, it's because there's a GPS unit on the irrigator, it's constantly plotting where it is on a farm map. So you can look day by day or week by week where the irrigator's actually been. And over the season it actually accumulates the data so you can actually get a visual picture of how much nutrients gone on to various paddocks as well, so that you can see where things are right.
The AgHub system is constantly expanding into new areas of the farming business. On the Barr's farm, Stephen can access information about almost any part of the property and compare it to any time in the past year. It's an evolving program which is improving all the time.
We're adding things to it. We keep coming up with ideas of things we can put on, and that's all useful. I mean, you've got a basis of a system there that you can add all sorts of things to. You know, there's a wireless internet system over the whole farm, so any devices that we can think of that can measure anything and put out a digital signal, you can potentially feed it into the system. We're looking at putting in water monitoring at the moment so that we can monitor how much water our stock are drinking, and it will be able to set up some alerts so that if we have leaks in the system or bullcocks off, it will be able to let us know that there's something wrong.
Working in an area of the country that has had its fair share of weather bombs and dry spells at inconvenient times, fielding farmers are often at the mercy of the elements. Because of this, monitoring and predicting weather patterns becomes even more important. Stephen says AgHub's weather monitoring system makes it easy to react to and plan for whatever weather systems hit the farm throughout the year.
I guess it helps you with what sort of pasture is on what and how the irrigators are doing? Yeah,
well, some of them affects your day-to-day running, and some of it sort of affects where you're going over the next month. Like at the moment, I know we're getting a bit wet, and a lot wetter than we were this time last year, so that affects how you think about when we're going to dry cows off, what rotations we need to be on, what fertiliser needs to go on, all those things. In the summertime, you know, the big issues are how dry we're getting and whether we need to irrigate and how much water to put on. Whereas this time of year it's more about soil temperature and how wet we're getting, and where our pasture covers are going through the winter. That's the bigger issue.
Irrigation and effluent spreading systems are constantly presenting new challenges for farmers with large herds, large properties and even larger overheads. The AgHub system has that covered too. Irrigators and effluent sprayers are monitored by GPS, meaning farmers can track the exact movements of their equipment in real time and to the metre.
That's one of the key things with all of this. It's just sitting there quietly accumulating information. We don't have to do anything. And then we've got it, you can decide what to do. You're not out there every day with some sort of gadget trying to measure something. It's just doing it.
It's doing it by itself.
You know, and then that's good quality information as far as I'm concerned.
Soil temperature and moisture levels are measured with sensors buried at different levels in the ground at key points around the farm. This gives Stephen access to soil conditions at any time he needs them, and alerts him or his farm manager by text when it starts to dry out. He can set specific trigger points which alert the AgHub system to recommend irrigation if moisture levels drop too low. In the monitoring areas around the farm, Stephen has sensors buried at 2 depths to give him a better picture of how the soil is coping on the tough fielding bedrock.
In the summertime, if you get small amounts of rain, you can have enough water in the top 2 inches to keep things growing, even though it hasn't penetrated right down to the full depth. And so it's just another piece of the puzzle to have that information together. Generally, we use the 6-inch information for planning irrigation, but occasionally the other stuff's interesting as well.
It's an innovation which AgHub believes will save farmers like the Bars tens of thousands of dollars a year.
We usually save between $5,000 and $10,000 a year in power costs by having the soil moisture tracked more accurately. So it's quite major quite quickly.
And pasture growth is also a breeze, thanks to AgHub technology that fits onto the front of a quad bike. No more clumsy rising plate meters.
That's the sensor unit, so it sends a beam out on a slight angle in front of the bike and measures the reflectance that comes back, and it basically measures the pasture height as you go over it. And then that data is converted into pasture cover based on an equation that's built into the machine.
With all of these gadgets, you'd think Stephen would be content, but he believes the AgHub system has only tapped into a fraction of its potential. He, along with the creators and developers of the system, are confident that tools to become better, more efficient farmers will soon be available to everyone.
So Steve, with the AgHub system, does it make it easier to farm or does it give you more jobs to do?
It changes the jobs that you're doing, but yeah, it does make keeping track of things a lot easier. And it's all the information's contained in one place. We used to have folders of paper and stuff everywhere, whereas really it's nice to have it all there electronically. We're not great bookkeepers, and it's nice to have it just all sitting there and click of a button.
A button that, with some good old-fashioned word of mouth, could soon be a staple of Kiwi farming life.
Welcome back. Next up, I'm joined in the studio by Graham Smith of the Balance Fertiliser Co-op. He explains why Balance has decided to become a major partner in the AgHub project. Well, Graham, welcome to Tower Sector Report here on Country 99 TV. Now, just to begin with, tell me, why has Balance got involved with this new high-tech venture, AgHub? It really seems to me to be the face of the future.
Oh, it certainly is about the future. We can see the value of what AgHub offers now, but if you look down 10 years down the track, what the farmer's going to require just to continue to operate in a farming business, then AgHub's got a huge future, and we're looking towards that. And if we want to be there in, say, 10 years' time, we've got to start getting on that path now. So it's got great value now, but as more applications are developed for it in the future, it's going to provide much more value in that time.
Right. I guess a lot of the information they're dealing with will concern fertiliser application, would it?
A lot of it's got fertiliser. There's a fertiliser application itself that we've developed in conjunction with AgHub, but obviously effluent management. More and more a fertiliser sales rep's job is around managing the total nutrients on the farm. So it's not just about selling fertiliser. We have to manage what a farmer's doing with their effluent. So they do what's called a nutrient management plan. Certainly on a dairy farm, you need to know where that effluent's going. So that links straight into your fertiliser as well. So we're obviously not recommending fertiliser to go on top of the effluent area. No. So you link those two bits of information together, and all of a sudden you start getting even more power.
Certainly the days have gone where there was just a blanket application of superphosphate, say, or lime to paddocks. It's much more
precise.
Precise, yes.
Yeah, very much so, John. It's I mean, as I said before, our job is now managing the fertiliser application or the nutrient application, and we're encouraging people to do more soil testing. In those days that you're referring to, they probably soil tested once every 3 years, and they did one block of the farm. If at all, that's right. Whereas now there's a need for two main reasons: one, financial, and secondly, environmental, to know exactly what your nutrient status is in the soil, and therefore what you're putting on. And what's happening to it? Is it running off? Is it leaching? And are you making sure that you're maximising the benefit of what you are putting on?
And of course you're saving a bit of money on the way through.
Oh, very much so. And a couple of years ago, when the price of fertiliser, it went from superphosphate went from sort of $200 to $700. The soil testing that was being done was phenomenal. There was a huge increase in soil testing, so that people knew where they needed to put it, and they didn't put it where they didn't need to. So tools like AgHub will help with that immensely.
Yeah. Are there changes that you're seeing in the market which make AgHub perhaps a bit more relevant to you these days than they might have been, say, even 5 years ago?
Well, definitely, and you talked before about it being a conservative market, and I guess one of the biggest changes is the baby boomers that are in the farming industry at the moment are, I won't say they're disappearing, but obviously they're starting to retire, and you've got another wave of people coming through. You've also got a lot of corporatisation of farms, aggregation. You've got bigger land holdings from individuals, so. With that comes the drive for more technology, I guess the understanding of the whole IT world and everything as well. And some of those changes, as again, if I talk about what's going to happen in 10 years' time, we've got to get ready for that now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to see how IT will not be a very major component of running a farm.
Oh, again, you used the word conservative before, and I don't think you could get much more conservative than the fertiliser cooperatives of 20 and 30 years ago.
That's right.
But we're sitting in our marketing team at the moment talking about having Facebook pages and Twitter and all that sort of stuff, which most of the farmers that are probably watching this now won't have an idea of how we could utilise that. But again, as we move forward, that's going to be commonplace, because that's the farmer of the future is growing up with that.
It'd be interesting to see whether your competitors, Ravensdown, basically, are keeping pace with you.
Well, we would like to think that we're always a couple of steps ahead of them.
Yes, indeed. Now, if you look into your crystal ball, I mean, how do you actually see these customer needs changing over the next few years? And how, of course, do you and AgHub actually cater to those changes?
I think there's a number of drivers for those changes. The environmental side of things and simple licence to operate. Farmers are going to have to do a lot more things just to be able to continue in business. So the compliance and the growth in that compliance that we've seen, as I said before, in the last 10 years is going to continue. As an industry, I think it's important for us to actually self-legislate and police ourselves and do the right thing, so that it's not forced upon us. And it won't get forced upon us if we do the right thing. So that's a major driver. Understanding what you're actually doing on the farm, and again, Colin talked about the effluent, monitoring, and so again, that wasn't required 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whereas it's only going to be more as we move forward.
Indeed.
Some of the other drivers are going to be the change in land use. The top of the hills are going to get squeezed out by trees, and people will be growing trees for carbon, not necessarily for the wood. And the rolling country at the bottom is being squeezed, by dairy, so there's intensification in that dairy market. What's left in the sheep and beef market will get intensified because they'll still be looking to try and get more production out of that land. So as you get a drive for more production, intensification, then some of these management tools are going to be crucial to make the right decisions and to monitor what you're doing.
And there's an awfully big amount of raw data and information that AgHub seems to be able to garner. And I guess for somebody like Balance, or a company like Balance, that it's a question of how you interpret that data and how you combine the different streams. Is that the main issue for you, if you like, in your involvement here?
Oh, definitely, and I think, again, going back to those changes in the market, I mean, you can no longer operate in any sector of this market with just looking at your own part of that, but you need to be looking at the wider picture, and ultimately we exist as Balance to help our shareholders make money. So they're going to make more money, or they're going to produce more and get more profit by integrating all of that information. So you look at your soil status, you look at your pasture planning, you look at your feed, you look at your effluent, you look at all of those things. And when you can overlay all of that information together, you're going to have much better, much better tools and much better information to make better decisions that will ultimately help better profitability.
Right. Well, very interesting stuff, and I wish you all the best in the future in your relationship with AgHub. So thanks very much for your time today, Graham.
Thanks, John.
That was Graham Smith of Balance Fertilisers there. Well, this week we'll be at the Mystery Creek Field Days. Now be sure to drop by and say hello. And tell all your friends and family that they'll be able to watch us for free on Sky's Channel 99 from June the 15th, that's the Wednesday, through to the 18th, the Saturday, as a special Field Days taster of Country 99 TV. That's right, watch us for free on Channel 99 Sky from June the 15th through to June the 18th. Catch you soon.